Hello, I'm Russell, and sometimes I build things. Last year I got to visit the United States and I got to see 2.5 Space Shuttle orbiters: Atlantis, Discovery, and Pathfinder. And when I got home from that trip I decided, hey, wouldn't it be fun to build a large-scale model of an orbiter, which I did, and this is it. And this is intended to be Atlantis, and it frustrates me to no end because there are so many things wrong with it, and it's a little oversized, and it's just generally frustrating. I want to build another one, so I'm going to, and I'm going to document it so you can see exactly how stupidly I do most of the things that I do. Let's just have a look at what I'm not happy with on this one. So problem number one is these guys, the OMS pods. They're not the right shape. They should be a lot more rounded than this, but in this case they're kind of squares with the corners rounded over. They're not right, and they annoy me, and I want to do something about that. Second problem is a bit more subtle than that. So in order to create the 26,000 tiles on the orbiter, the surface materials on the large one, this is EVA foam which has been scored and hit with a heat gun in order to replicate the effect of tiles. This step here drives me crazy. It's all the way around the edge of the tiles. Really frustrating. So we'll fix that next time around. Problem number three is more of a choice than a problem. I chose to make this a model of Atlantis because Atlantis was the first orbiter that I actually saw in person. And what I regret about that is that it tied me to trying to replicate an exact shuttle, whereas it would be a lot easier to be able to use reference from any given shuttle and be able to make a little bit of artistic liberty, I guess, with the design. So I won't do that again either. And the fourth thing is it's just too freaking big, because I actually would like to make boosters and an external tank for it, but if I make boosters and external tank for this thing, it's going to be 2 meters tall, which is a bit ridiculous, so we'll scale it back a little bit for the next one. Now this is where I'm up to right now with take 2. So obviously it is quite a bit smaller, and it's quite a bit more 3D printed. There are a few 3D printed parts on the big guy, but this one has a completely 3D printed nose and completely 3D printed OMS pods, so they are far more accurate than those ones, which is good. That's exciting. The structure of the center part is basically just a wooden box. There's a bit of, mind the excess bog that I've just shoved in the back there. There's a bit of build up in the back to support the OMS pods. Some structure in there to hold that, but that's working out okay. Figuring out the geometry of the wings wasn't much fun on the big one either, but here we go. Okay, so our wing structure is looking like so, and I'm just cutting out these shapes, which will be the shapes that will be cut out of MDF to make up the parts that go in between. This is where the fuselage goes. So, for example, this will be the wing tip. So now I need to cut these 5 pieces from MDF twice. Done! And there we go, they're all cut and filed, and I'm about to say something that is going to do one of two things. It will either make what's about to happen seem incredibly impressive, or it'll cover my butt for the unmitigated disaster that's about to occur, because what I wanted to say was I don't think these things are going to fit together the way I want them to. And added to that, I'm also using my least favourite adhesive on earth, which is hot glue, because it's instantaneous, more or less, and it should hold the structure together until I can apply something a little more adhesive. So here goes. Also, I have 1 stick of glue left, so hopefully this works. So I guess what you'd consider the moment of truth in constructing a model space shuttle is the point at which you mate these two parts together. There are no guarantees that this will work. Sausage dog here, sausage dog. That is looking pretty good. The wings are relatively level and everything seems to fit together quite nicely. I just need to go in and make this structure a little more structural. I'm going to use a crap ton of PVA glue and paddle pop sticks, popsicle sticks, pop sticks, whatever you want to call them. It's kind of a, if you can't tie knots, tie lots approach to making something reasonably sturdy. This piece of PVC pipe will be the bay doors. They will not open, but they should look appropriate closed. They are pretty much the correct curvature. They just sit a little proud here and here, but that's nothing that can't be filed down, so let's figure out a way to attach them. Sometimes when you really want something to stick, construction adhesive is the only way to go. That's looking pretty good. This extra glue and whatnot can be cleaned up once it's dried, and we'll file these little lips down flush with the sides and file this down a little bit, make it flush with the front. I think it is good. Day 2. So we need to clean these edges up and do something about those wings. And now we need to apply some carcinogenic quantities of filler. Integral part of any build process is that you should absolutely stop to give a belly rub to a sausage dog. Okay, so that's looking okay, and now I get to file for a month and a half. So this might not end well, but we'll see. Use in a well-ventilated area, wear protective gloves and glasses, blah 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 blah. Shake can well for 30 seconds before using, ensure surface is free of oil. Wear eye protection and the glove provided within the lid. What do you know? Okay. Shake it, put a glove on, turn it upside down. Cool. Okay, so that's looking a lot like a space shuttle orbiter without any wings. I'm actually going to hit this with some primer. The point of putting primer on it is not to prepare it for paint, it's just to kind of homogenize all the different materials that we've got going on here so I can see where our geometry has failed and if there's anything major that needs to be fixed up, because, well, we've got wood and MDF and 3D print, PVC pipe and filler all over it. It's a bit of a rainbow of colours. Really hard to tell where things aren't meeting up properly, so primer will fix that. Okay, so it's looking like a thing. I'm now trying to layer some filler primer, or spray putty, onto the 3D printed parts, just to try and hide a little bit of the layer lines, particularly on the sides of that, of the nose there. The layer lines are really quite harsh. I just want to cover those up on the chance that they show through any of the surface texture, so that's fun. Okay, so I've cleaned the 3D printed parts up a bit. We've reduced the severity of those print lines on the side. This thing was printed at 0.3 layer thickness, so the print lines on it are pretty rough. I wanted to print it relatively quickly. I've also filed down the centre line to try and remove any evidence of the seam between the two parts in case that shows through any of the surface layers. I normally wouldn't recommend filing a 3D print made of PLA, which is polylactic acid, with a file because PLA tends to go kind of shaggy and furry, but I don't really care on this because it is going to have further surfaces attached over top, so it's not just going to be painted. So it'll be okay. And our next layer of expanding foam on the other side of the wings is expanding, and it's got a little way to go. But that's cool. And now it looks a lot more like a space shuttle. We have wings, such as they are. They're full of sort of pits and holes and things, because we had some curing issues, but it's nothing that won't resolve itself with a bit of time and a bit of filler. But long story short, these wings went together a lot quicker than the wings on the other shuttle, and that was the point. So, mission accomplished. And the wings are now sealed. Cool. Okay, day 3, I think. Could be day 4, I'm not sure. Didn't actually do anything yesterday, so I don't know if it counts. Anyway, day something. I am now going to mix up some filler and fill these wings in so that they don't look like Swiss cheese anymore. I'll take things that smell terrible for 1,000, please, Alex. Okay, so here's where we're up to at the moment. Not much to report right now. The wings are now more or less permanently attached, in as much as they're now attached with more screws than they were before, so I guess it's not really permanent, but it will be. And I've also extended these little blocks at the bottom. They are going to permanently stay on there, and they're going to be the mounting points for the external tank. I know it's not accurate, but no one's going to be looking underneath it, so it's all good. It is going to make applying the sheet of tiles to the bottom of the shuttle a little more interesting than it otherwise would have been. So yeah, also I've put some balsa onto the body flap, so that's progressing. So I had initially planned to use the same method that I used on the large shuttle to create the engine belts to go at the back. On the large one I used plastic wine glasses because they're more or less perfect and they looked pretty cool. But this time I got even lazier, and it turns out someone on Thingiverse has already designed the things, so we have 3D printed engine bells for the smaller shuttle. So this is what we have. I've got 3 Space Shuttle main engines and 3 OMS thrusters. I only need 2, but I had a failed print, so I got a bonus one. I'm going to clean these ones up a little bit. These ones are quite good on their own, and then hit them with a copious amount of filler primer. I've also constructed an apparatus into which the vertical stabilizer can be inserted, like so. So yeah, it's a pretty rough construction in there, but it's holding it in place, and that's good. So I just need to fill in some holes, and we're in business. Looks like a space shuttle to me. I've kind of glossed over the last few steps because there's only so much I can expect you to watch me stick things onto other things, but this is where we're up to at the moment it's covered in grey primer, and someone pointed out that it kind of looks like the Space Shuttle from Armageddon, which is acceptable. I can live with that. But anyway, I need to fill in some of these additional bumps and scratches on the wings, so that's the next project. Pausing for a moment to do something really important, which is to install an Echo Dot. Mission accomplished. What's the time in Tokyo?
The time in Tokyo is 3:15 p.m.
There you go. So the next step is going to be temporary paint. I'm going to paint it white, and then we're going to flesh in, basically with Sharpie, all of the details that make it look like a space shuttle. And after that, in what will be the next video, I'm going to actually detail the outside of it, because I'm waiting for some stuff to arrive from eBay, some materials. I'm also losing my voice, so yay! And now we have a white space shuttle. It's a fairly rough coat of paint, but that's all we need. So the exterior of the space shuttle is made up of 5 different materials. More than 5, but mostly 5. And all I'm planning to do at the moment is to map out on the surface of this shuttle where those different materials lie. And that will be a template for the next step in the process, which will be cutting materials to replicate those surfaces. Yeah, so let's do that. Not the most exciting addition, but I've just rebuilt these parts out of a piece of styrene, because for some reason the 3D print did not print the thrusters on the top surfaces, but now they're on there. Okay, so I've finished more or less detailing the shuttle. I'm just cutting at the moment a piece to fill in this back space here. Okay, so now I am working on getting the surface built up so that I can attach the surface details, which will be various kinds of fabric and EVA foam. So I'm just putting cardboard on here, hopefully building it up by about 1/2 millimeter so that the fabrics will be at the same height as the EVA foam. That's the plan. And that right there is the end of part 1. So if you don't want to miss out on the second part and the third part, somewhere down there's going to be a big red button that says subscribe. Feel free to click on that, or don't, whatever makes you happy really. If you found this at all interesting, you might want to check out my other channel, which is IDU Curiosity. I make videos about history and dinosaurs and space and stuff like that. So that's over there or down there or up there or something if you want to go and click on that. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and there'll be more stuff in future, so yay!